Well, g'day everyone. Today I'm going to take you through my settings that I'm using for my new A7S III. And what I thought I'd do is I might split these into a couple of different videos because they'd be quite long. So today I'm just going to start out with the video settings that I use for this camera and also show the favorites. Now the favorites, I've copied basically Phillip Bloom's favorites. He spent about 4 hours, he said, setting them up, and I think it's organized very, very well for the video aspect, which is mostly what I'll be using this in. I will be using it for photography as well, but clearly as this is such a strong video camera, I will be mainly using it for video with some stills taken as well. So today we're going to start with the video components, or how the settings are for video, and then I'll upload after that the photography settings, and then also I'll do one sort of for my custom buttons and things like that we can set, so I can show you how the whole thing is set up. So let's start doing that now. So what we'll do is we'll switch to the camera, and I thought I'd take you through the settings. Now you just get to this by hitting the menu button, and then if we look at the image quality here, I have put a video up about this, but I thought I'd just explain it again just quickly. The file format that I'm using is a7siii. Now it's the intra codec that I'm using. Now I've found that it is really good on the computer that I'm using, and my computer's a fairly old one. It's a 2013 Mac Pro. It is a very high-ended one, but it's still a very it still edits very, very well with this format. I found that the other formats not so much. I can edit up to 4K 60 with this, and it's quite successful. If I go to 4K 100, then I do have to transcode to ProRes. So that's really good, because most of the time I will be just using 4K 25p and 4K 50p. If I go to 100, I'll just have to transcode. Now there are multiple settings you can obviously set inside there if you want to. Like I said, I've set mine at a7siii, which is the intra codec. You can use the a7siii, which is using that long GOP type format, but it's a H.265 format, which is very hard on most computers. The new Apple computers that come out, I'm using an Apple, will have a T2 chip when they go ARM, and then I think it will be able to be edited very, very easily. So we're just going to have to wait for that at this stage. I probably will get one of those once it's announced, a desktop version that's decent enough. So at this stage, I'm just leaving it on a7siii, and that's working very, very well. The movie settings that I'm on at the moment is 25p. Now I'll show you how I've set up later on the custom buttons, because they're set up for different things, and I'll show that at the end, and you can sort of see how they're set up. But at this stage I'm just setting it at 25p, and you'll notice that that will give you that 250 megabits per second, and it's 422 10-bit, and the footage is beautiful that I'm getting from that. Sometimes when I'm going through these menus, I will only discuss what I've changed, though. If it's standard, I won't discuss it. S&Q settings, I've just got that on 25p, and I've put the frame rate at 100. Now that gives me 250 megabits per second, and that gives me 4 times slow motion. You can, if you like, change that to 50p, and then you'll get 500 megabits per second, 422 10-bit. So I may change that, but that's 2 times slow-mo. At this stage, I'm just leaving it at 25p. Let me come back to proxy settings. I don't use lens compensation. I don't use either. So let's skip down to the media. Now this is where you can obviously format your camera or your cards. I'm using CF Express A cards. I've got 2 of those, the 160 gigabyte version cards. My recording media settings. Now I prioritize slot 1. It's just the way I like to go. You can sort of choose which slot you'd like to prioritize. And the recording mode, I'm doing simultaneous video and stills. And basically that will use both cards at the same time. Now it just depends. If I'm, say, working on a non-critical job that's not a paying job, I might change these so that it will sort them, etc. And then it will just use cards. Once one card fills up, it will go on to the next one, and that's one way that you can do it. And I probably would do that, because at the moment I've only got about 44 minutes or something like that. But if I wanted to go, say, on one of these and just do video, I'd get obviously a lot more room out of it. If I go on standard, it will then jump to the next card. So that's the way that I can use that. At the moment I've just got it on simultaneous. and you can see it'll just use one card, it'll use both cards at the same time. Recover image database, obviously if you have issues you can recover it, and display media info inside here. You can just say slot 1, slot 2. I haven't changed that at all. Your file settings, I've just put into here, it's still on series, so I haven't changed that. Series counter reset, you can set your numbering can be sort of set from here. File format, date and time, I've put that on date and time, and I'll show how this looks in a minute. And your name settings, I've just put DO. Now you would have to change this obviously to suit your camera. I've just put this as DO for my name. You could put whatever you'd like to put in there. If you have multiple A7 IIIs, this would be an advantage. I've just done that myself. And you'll notice down the bottom down here, you can see where it shows DOA. So it shows how this is will be saved, which would be DO A7 III, and then it'll be the year, month, and date, and then it'll have the A7 III extension on that. Okay, so under movie shooting mode, over here, your exposure mode there is just on manual. I like to do that rather than use aperture priority or shutter priority. Let me just come back. Exposure type, I haven't changed. The camera memory set, this recall in here, this is where you can save your settings. Now I've done that. I've saved my settings for 1, 2, and 3, and I'll just explain what I've done here. So in the normal movie mode, what I've done, just let me switch back and I'll just talk to you about this. In the normal movie mode, I've set it at 24p 4K. And the codec is the same in each case. So I've set that as it is. Now, if you look at the next one, which I can't save over these, they won't change unless I click in them, so I don't want to move it. But your normal movie mode is 24p. Number 1 is saved at 50p. So if I want to slow down in 4K, I can immediately just go onto number 1 as the mode dial, and it will go the same settings, but it will be 4K 50. And obviously, if you're in the US, you'll have to change these settings to suit your NTSC. So it'll have to be 60p. Number 2 is I've used log. So I've made number 2 as log, and it's the same settings except I'm shooting in log. So it's 4K 50p in log. Now my zebra settings and everything are set, and I'll discuss them when I come down to zebras, and I'll show you how that sort of works. The number 3 is HLG. So again, it's the same settings, but it's set for HLG. So I've got my normal movie mode is 24p, number 1 is 50p, number 2 is log, and number 3 is HLG. So that's how my memory is worked out. Silent shutter, I haven't changed anything in here. Recording mode, I haven't changed anything in there at all, so nothing has been changed. And TCU, I haven't changed. Image stabilization, nothing has been changed in there either. Zoom, I haven't changed anything. Shooting display, nothing. Marker display, nothing. All right, so let's come over and go down to the next one. Exposure, I haven't changed anything in here, but I have put my ISO would come down usually to the lowest setting. Now I've just got that set at 160. That's what it's set at the moment. Let me just come back. ISO range limit, I still have to sort of play around with this to see what the lowest sort of ISO setting and the highest ISO setting can be. So this is sort of still work in progress, and I'm going to have to look at. At this stage, I've just set it at the native ISO. The lowest native ISO is 80 and the uppermost is 102/400. You'll have to work out yourself what you're comfortable with working with. So I haven't changed. Auto manual set, I haven't changed anything in there at all. Exposure compensation, nothing's been changed in here. Metering mode, I haven't changed anything in this setting at all. White balance, I haven't changed anything down here. It's still just on auto, and this would be standard. Now, I do recommend particularly that you, with your auto white balance, that you get off it and you start to use custom white balances, and they're down the bottom down here, and you would set your custom white balance through this section here. And I use a white card. It's actually a grey card. It's a color checker passport, so I do a custom white balance check on this. So I would do that through every shoot. Now I could leave that on custom if I wanted to, but I just leave it on auto and then change it whenever I go in. Priority for white balance set in here. You can set it for ambient, like if you click onto there, you keep your warmth in, which is nice if you're sort of in an incandescent, like if you're doing a wedding or something like that and there's nice warm lighting going on, you could leave that set to there. Auto white balance white will get rid of that sort of ambient lighting and customize it more to white, or you could leave it on standard. I do use these depending on what I'm shooting in. If I'm using an auto white balance and I want to move very, very quickly. Let me just come out, so I'm leaving it on auto at the moment. Shockless white balance here is just set on 2. That means that if it does change your white balance, it will sort of give a smooth rack between it, which is nice. Before it used to be sort of a immediate sort of going from one white balance to the other, and it wasn't smooth. So if you are changing your white balances, it will sort of flow in one to the other, and it's nice. And I've found 2 is quite nice. Color tone, D-range optimizer I leave off. Creative looks I leave as standard. Now the only thing I've changed in here is the standard profile is -3 in saturation. Now this is because I use Leeming Lut. Let me just explain that for a minute. I am using Leeming Lut. And they give you a whole stack of settings that you use. Okay, so I'm using Leeming Lut. And they use a whole stack of LUTs that you purchase. Now, the good thing is with Leeming LUTs, they give you a whole user guide for your camera. Like if I click down here and click setup guide for this, what it will give you is you get a complete guide of telling you everything that you need to put into your camera to make this system work. And that's this sort of table that you get through here. So we'll tell you, for instance, if you're using the natural profile, which is the one I was just showing you, that your zebras have to be on 100 plus. You use the neutral or standard setting. You have -3 in saturation and -3 in sharpness. So that's telling you how you set that. So that's like, for instance, the good thing about using this is that it will profile all your cameras to give the same look. So if I'm using the Sony A9, there's no picture profiles in the A9, so I use this natural standard profile, and with these settings in, it will match the settings of what HLG will give me or what S-Log3 will give me. They should match fairly close once you load the LUT. For instance, with S-Log3, it's telling me that you use 95 for zebras, although there's an update to this that I'll show you in a minute. You use PP3, S-Log3, and you're on S-Gamut3 sign. And you use -7 in the detail. If you're using HLG3, it's 100 plus for your zebras. You use HLG3 and it's BT 2020 and it's -7 for your zebras as well. And then it gives you a whole guide about how you set up your camera. And it even gives you a guide about how you set up your custom buttons. I haven't followed those because I like my own, but it tells you about custom buttons, and it even tells you about how to do white balance and even how to set up your Ninja V recorder. Now they are going to produce a new LUT, I believe, to suit the A7S3, but at this stage it works quite well, so I'm quite comfortable with it, and it seems to work very, very well. The only thing is that they do tell you down here that instead of 95, there's sort of been an updated here, it tells you to use 94 instead of 95 for your zebras. So that's really the only difference that has been changed. So your zebras have been dropped by 1. So let me just scroll back to here. So that's why I've set my standard profile at -3 in saturation, and it will be -3 down here in clarity. In sharpness, I mean. So let me just get out of that. So that's the creative standard. I'm using the standard profile for that. Now, if I'm using profiles, at the moment it's off on this one because I'm just in my movie mode. But if I did go to profile 1 here, let me do it. I'll switch it over and you'll see how it's set. So now if I move over to number 2 on the recall, it will go to the log profile. Now, if I click into here, you'll notice now it's got picture profile and it's PP1. And if we click across, you'll see that it's S-Log3 and it's S-Gamut sign. These are all settings that I just showed you which were in the Leeming Lut If you look at detail, the detail will be -7. So that's how that works. And my zebras will be set appropriately, which I'll have to sort of discuss with you later. So let me get out of this and I'll switch back to just movie mode. So all my picture profiles, like I said, are set on my mode dial as 1, 2, and 3. HLG will be 3, S-Log will be 2, 4K 50 is on number 1, and the profiles are set as they are there. Zebra display down here. The zebra display will be set according to that document that I showed you a minute ago, and I'll leave the link to that as well if you're interested in having a look at that as well. I'll leave that link so you can sort of download it and see exactly why I've set my zebras up the way that I have. Let me scroll back. In the focusing mode, I've just got continuous AF here. AF transition speed, I change these all the time, but I've sort of worked out I like these settings as they are at the moment. So if we go back, the AF transition speed is on number 4. Now, if I scrolled it back this way, it will be slow. If I went the other way, it will be quick. Just depends on whether you'd like the focus to change very, very quickly or whether you'd like it to sort of rack focus. If it's down this way, it will smoothly focus in between. So you'd see a nice transformation between the foreground and whatever you're changing to. If you put it up the other end, it will be very, very fast. So I'm leaving it here, but I do change these settings all the time depending on what I want to do. The subject sensitivity, though, means whether you'd like it to lock onto the subject or not. For instance, if I go down this way, it will lock onto the subject, and if that subject went behind a tree or something like that, like if I locked on a guy's face or a girl's face, it would hold onto the subject much, much longer. If I go the opposite way, it will be very, very responsive in choosing that subject and tracking that subject, but it may jump to another subject quite easily as well. That's on the faster side, the responsive side. So again, I'm just leaving this on 3 at the moment. Everything's sort of centered, and I would change it as I need it. Focus area. Yeah, I haven't changed anything here. The only thing I may change is the focus area color. You could change to white or red, just depending on what you'd like. So I haven't changed anything on this one at all. Face eye detection, this is where you would choose, for instance, if you want face eye priority on or off. That's where you'd choose if you have a animal or human eye detection. Right, left eye is just on auto. I'll just let it choose, but you can determine whether you'd like to say right eye or left eye. Face eye frame display is on. I like to see that frame comes on, and registered face priority is on as well. So that I really haven't changed anything on there at all. Okay, so now we'll look at the customizing section. Now I'll show you the customized setting for stills in the stills section, but I'll show you the video section that I've got here. So it's the next one down. And all I've got here is I've got number 1, which is the scroll wheel, as ISO. So if I turn that around, it will increase the ISO if I go to the right, and if I go to the left, it will decrease the ISO. Now I'll show you that working. If you look here, you're just not going to be able to see it because I've got myself down the bottom there. But if I just scroll that wheel, the ISO has been increased. If I go to the right, if I do the wheel to the left, it will decrease the ISO. So that's what that customized button does. If we go into the next one, this is the AEL button is set as focus magnifier. And that's really handy if you're going into manual focus. Let me just switch this to manual focus, and I'll come out and show you how that works. All right, so if I press the AEL button, immediately you'll see that it blows the image up. Now I've also got it on, it'll do it automatically too if I'm in manual focus as well, but I just like to have that quick key button there in case if I want to get access to it very, very quickly, and that's really nice. And then if I click it again, it will shoot back out. Yeah, the AF on button is set to select autofocus and manual focus. So if I click out of this, now if you look on the left hand side there, you can see where it says manual focus. If I hit the AF on button, it will immediately go to AFC. So this is a quick key that I can choose to go from AFC to manual, which is really nice. So I love having that feature set like that. The next one down is face priority select. So it will turn face detection on or off. So if I show you that, if I press that, which is the C1 button, you'll see face priority in AF is off. If I press it again, it will be on. So that's a quick way of turning face detection on or off. Let's come down again. 5, which is your C3 button, is for audio record level. Now what that means is if I come through here and I press the C3 button, I can then adjust my audio from the camera that way as well. So it's a very, very quick way of adjusting audio. And lastly on this page, it's just the C3, which is the trash can I set as white balance. If I press the trash can, you'll immediately get white balance to come up. So that's the way that I can check my white balance very, very quickly. So let's go down now and I'll show the other one. This one here, which is your joystick, is set to switch focus mode. And what that means is that if I come through here and I click in the middle, it will determine whether it's a spot focus, medium, large. You could go to expandable spot, wide, and zone. So I could say check the zone area if I want to. And I love just having that option to do that very, very quickly. So it's really good. Like if I wanted to just say get that in focus, I could just move it around. So that's using the joystick by pushing in. Next one down is just the zoom, and that's by pressing the middle button of the scroll wheel there, which is number 4. So I'll show you how that works. If I click onto that, it will just then zoom in. So I can zoom in using clear image zoom. Now this is the 24 GM, so I'm not getting much of a zoom, but you can see that that's how that works. So that's a nice feature, and I do use that actually quite a lot. Next setting down is monitor brightness, so that's number 3, so that's pressing on the right hand side of the scroll wheel there. So if we do that, I'll show you how that works. If I click, I can't do it because it's connected by HDMI. It's not going to let me do that one. Number 4, which is the right hand side there, is turning steady shot off and on. So if I click on the right hand side of the scroll wheel, you can then turn active stabilization, go to standard, or turn stabilization off. And the bottom one, which is down, I can choose my picture profile. So let me show you that. So if I want quick access to picture profiles, if I scroll down through here, I can then choose my picture profile very, very quickly. Now if we go down to the top one here, so I've put number 1 here. This is the record button. I prefer to have that as an extra button, so I've reprogrammed it to peaking. Now, the reason why I've done that is because I can use the shutter button to just press for video, so I don't need that. So I would turn that, or just press it to turn peaking display on or off. Now, this won't work because it's connected to HDMI, so there's no point me showing it. Number 2, which is the C2 button, is just my zebra display. And that may not show either because I'm connected via HDMI. So if I click on that, it will be zebra display off. If I click it again, the zebras will be displayed on. Just to show you the C1 button, see that's peaking off, and by pressing it, that will be peaking on. So that's how that works. And the last one here is just focus. I haven't changed that. I have left that just as default setting. Custom key settings for playback, I haven't changed at all. Okay, so my FN menu settings, I'll show you on the actual camera so we don't get confused here, because you'll see both if I click in the menus. I'll just show you that so you don't get confused. But if you look here, it shows you your stills at the top and your video down the bottom. So rather than show that, I'll just click on the FM menu on the camera and then you'll sort of see them. So what I've got here, I've just got my peaking settings there. So if I click into here, I can change from mid, high or low. This is also your peaking color, so I can change my color straight away. If I go here, this is how I change my AF transition speed. So I can just sort of come in very, very quickly to get out of that as well. This is your AF shift sensitivity as well. Here I can change the priority of my media, so I could go from 1 or choose number 2. This will turn steady shot on or off, so I can do it that way. Down the bottom here, this is a way that I can change my viewfinder magnification. Because I wear glasses, I can change that to small or large. If I click in here, you'll see it'll go small. If I come over to, this is where I can choose automatic white balance of standard, ambient and white. That's where I said if I'm in a nice warm environment, I can choose the warm to keep the warm. If I want to override that, make it white, I can do it through that as well. Here I can change my zebra settings, so that's where I can change that to what I need. This will have gamma assist display on or off. If I'm using gamma assist, if I'm using the Sony log, etc., I can turn it on here. Here I like to have markers, so I can determine whether I'm going to have markers on or off the screen. And lastly, this is where I can choose whether to go my manual, aperture mode, shutter speed, or manual if I want to work quickly as well. So they're the settings that I've put inside the FN menu. Okay, so this menu here is if you want to have different sets of the FM menu and everything, all your menus for video and stills, and I like that. So I did. It says here you can set different settings for still, image mode, and movie mode in the next screen. And that's what's fantastic about that, because you can determine what you change. Now I've selected everything because I like it all to be completely independent of one another. One of the things that we had previously was if you were in movie mode and you say put picture profiles on, those picture profiles went over into your stills, and that did cause issues if you were shooting JPEG. Not so much obviously if it's RAW, but if you were shooting JPEG, the picture profiles were built in or baked in. This way you can have completely different sets for your stills and your video, and I think that's a game changer. It's really good. Display screen set, you can monitor what you have when you press the up of your wheel. You can say if you want your histograms to be shown, levels, etc. I've got them all selected there apart from monitor off, and the same with the finder. Record with the shutter button is on because I like to record using that. Remember, I've disabled the red recording button. I'm recording with the shutter button at the front of the camera. Another one that was put in here too is the dial customize. I haven't changed anything in that section though, but the next one I did, touch operation, has been changed. Touch operation has been put on. Touch sensitivity is standard. You can have sensitive if you want to. I've put standard on. Touch panel pad is both valid. You can have just touch panel if you like, or the touch pad only. Touch settings, touchpad settings, I've got the touch position is absolute position. I think that was standard, but the operation area, I have chosen the lower right because your nose can touch the screen, and if that happens, you'll affect your touch focusing. So I've left that just to lower right, which is the best place for that to be. Find a monitor. The only thing you can really change here is viewfinder magnification I've got as standard. Display quality I've changed to high. I do like the best quality possible. And also the finder frame rate is on high as well. I haven't changed anything in here at all. That's all the same. Let me come down. I have changed this though. The power settings I've changed to 5 minutes before it turns itself off, and also auto power off temp is on high. That will stop it overheating, so it's important to turn that on as well. Volume settings is just on 7, so I've just set it at the middle, and that could be changed to whatever you need it at. 4-channel audio monitoring, I've just got it on channel 1, channel 2, and audio signals are on. USB settings, there's nothing being changed there at all. External output, I haven't changed anything there either. And the setup options are as default. Okay, so let me know what you think about that. I mean, like I said, remember this is just the settings that I've used, and this is only the video component. I'll show the stills next. But, you know, I think those settings work well for me. I'm happy with how they work. Like I said, I will save the file for you, and I'll put the link underneath so that you could copy that directly and sort of put that into your camera and then modify it to sort of suit your needs that way as well if you wanted to change certain things. Thanks Phillip too for those great favorites. That menu was terrific as well. Like I said, I'll stick his video under there as well. Apart from that, if you have any questions, leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I will do these as a whole series. Like I said, the next one will be stills, and then anything else that's sort of left over after that I'll do as another video from there on. So I'll see you all for the next video. Bye for now.